He really is setting himself up as the GOAT of AE4 at the moment. You know, but when the game first came out, who did everyone think the GOAT of Age of Empires was going to be, Lidakor? Who was it?
Well, it looked like MarineLorD, and now that he won Golden League, you know, we can't even just trash him with the fact or just mock him with the fact that he hasn't won S tier
He
because,
hasn't won.
like, you know, if he hadn't won an S tier, it would always be like, oh yeah, he's in there in the grand finals once again in the second weekend as well, because this is not an S tier tournament. And he loves, like, even before Golden League, he loved to mock himself with it. I think I had an interview with him at one point. It was something like Winner Stays On or, you know, Winter Series or something. And it's like, we got to the point where it was talking about the fact that, you know, he's in the grand finals again, he won again and stuff like that. And he's like, yeah, sure thing, I won. It's not an S tier tournament.
That's true, that's true. But, like, you know, I'm happy for him. I'm just upset that I can't use this really sweet line, which was, I'm not saying I'm a better player than MarineLorD Lidakor, but I have won as many S tier events as him. Now I can't say that anymore because he's finally delivered, as we've expected for so long. You know, he
look,
continues to deliver.
You gotta think about the positives. You won one less S tier event than MarineLorD. How does that sound?
Damn, you're right. You know, like, and you know what? You can take that a step further if you really take the caster angle. You're like, I'm not saying I'm better than X or Y play. Like, I'm not saying I'm better at Mister, but I've been in more final days of big events like that. See, you can just take those type of angles. It works. All right, now that I feel better, let's see if Leenock can feel better in this series, because of course he did lose that first game and it did not look close, but now he picks what's you're just seen as MarineLorD's signature Civ on a map that he's all too comfortable in. Let's see if he can take this series away, because this is a best of 3, which means if Leenock loses here, he is going to be oust for this weekend, and MarineLorD will once again make his way through to a grand final.
Indeed. Now, looking at the map layout over here, the three sacred sites that we do have, they are mostly situated either on the central part of the map or to the north. That southern corner is actually very empty. Basically no resources there, no relics, no sacred sites. So most of the fighting is probably going to be situated on the northern side of the map, because that's where most of the extra resources are at, that's where their sacred sites are at. And it looks like MarineLorD is opening with an early mosque strategy over here. So you can see that I think efficient production already finished. So he's grabbing Piety. And for the style that he's playing with a Delhi, it is imperative that he finishes with Piety mostly by the time he reaches Feudal Age. Some players like to delay their Mosque and delay Piety as such, but for MarineLorD's playstyle, he likes to grab that Piety as soon as possible. Obviously, for that, he first needs to grab Sanctity. And you see, the drawback of that is that you first have to get some wood without dropping a lumber camp, so he's just now building a lumber camp despite already chopping some trees for a while. It's a side effect, but I think it pays off really well, because increasing the survivability of your monks or scholars using Piety in early Feudal Age is a really good value, especially against a civilization like French that will have some knights out that will be ready to snipe your scholars.
Exactly that. It's like a delayed reinvestment, right? Think about what you can potentially save in terms of the resources saved in an extra 2 or 3 units that you healed up instead, and also how much hard your scholars to go down. They're still 75 gold each, and also because you're a little bit more optimal in your timing, getting into Piety comes a little bit quicker, and that means that you can actually go and pick up the sacred sites more easily. And if you do even just sliver them up in your control for a second, then you get most of the cost of the scholar back. I think it's actually pretty smart when you think about it. Like, if you consider the delay on walking to the tree line and back, like, you're maybe losing, what would you say, 10, no more than 10, like 6 seconds, 7 seconds per villager. I think that's worth it just a few minutes down the line.
Yeah, sure thing. And of course you do have the berry bonus at the beginning, so you have a decent early Dark Age economy, which means that even losing those villager seconds is not something that's like tremendous compared to, let's say, the economy of an other civilization in Dark Age. So yeah, as you said, it's delayed reinvestment of resources out there, as we do have a bit of a scuffle between the scouts over here. Looks like MarineLorD is coming out on the top, although one of his scouts is actually heavily damaged out there. But keep in mind, Leenock, loses one scout over here. Actually, he just aggroed the wolf.
Scuffle into a kerfuffle right there. Yeah, the wolves are not too friendly to anyone on this map. So Leenock, he's going to have limited vision, and that's not a good situation to find yourself in against the Delhi. Because what you want in this early stage of the game is you want to have 2 scouts so that you can actually spread out across the sacred sites. Otherwise, what MarineLorD can do is if he sneaks out into one of those sacred sites and you're baited on the other side of the map, he's going to get a free cap. And if he gets that cap, the time it then takes you to arrive there and decap it, even if he loses a scholar, it's already paid for the scholar and then some.
Yeah, exactly. And you could see that MarineLorD could heal up his scout. In fact, he did that with his scholar, so he's now back to 2 full HP scouts out there, well, mostly full HP. By the time it gets back to the front line with the passive healing, it's gonna be back to full HP out there. And it looks like we're just gonna have that, you know, good old-fashioned setup of spearmen, horsemen as compared to knights and archers, which we're seeing more and more that the spearmen, horsemen dominate. So what is the condition of victory here for Leenock? What does he have to do to ensure that he won't just get overrun by horsemen and spearmen?
I'd actually love to see him go for like a secondary TC, maybe like 13 minutes, as long as he's not overwhelmed. So up to that point, it's just key to take reasonable fights. Like, don't overextend yourself. Focus mainly on the northern side with his 2 sacred sites. You might have to forfeit the southern one occasionally, but every once in a while you can just roam and your knights. Like, that's a big edge you can have. Right now, MarineLorD, he doesn't actually have any horsemen. He hasn't started to amass them, and this is the prime stage. Like, if Leenock is on point and he raids him well once or twice with a few knights, he can do some serious damage. But I think the key to unlocking that, and you'll see he's lacking it right now back in Leenock's base, he needs to put a blacksmith. Once you put the blacksmith, you instantly get your hands on the improved damage, and that would allow you to snipe out a few villages. But, you know, I guess we can forget about that. We highlight the TC, the textiles is coming out, and that plan's now gone a little bit limp.
Indeed, with textiles coming, that's just so imperative, right? And it's so nice to see. I think you talked about it yesterday, that it takes like 25 seconds or so.
It's absurd.
And
it's
just
so
think about
absurd, Lidakor. It's 25 seconds, and it doesn't cost anything.
And
So
like, the thing is that a villager takes 20 seconds to train, which means that essentially, if you were to lose more than one villager without textiles, it's already worth it to grab it. That is a ridiculous turnover of resources or like time investment.
And it's insanely important in this matchup, Lidakor, because against the French, what I was trying to highlight there, like, you want the blacksmith because you get the melee tech instantly for free. You pay 150 wood, you get your melee tech. Why the melee tech is important is if you get it, your knights are actually able to 2-hit villages at 50 health, whereas before it takes 3. Now, that option's off the table. And the reason this is going to be important is, like, if Leenock pushes a knight straight away and moves in, and he gets his blacksmith straight away, like, usually the timing when people get textiles, there's an opportunity to kill, like, 3 or 4 villages at least. But part of it, credit to MarineLorD, and part of it, the fact that Leenock stopped off the archers early as well, meant that he never got that opportunity to get an eco lead, or a bigger eco lead, shall we say, than he already has.
Indeed, and you see that MarineLorD is playing this one a little more passively than usual, going very defensive with the walls, but this is just, you know, essentially a reaction to what you just said about the possibility of Leenock being able to always come in and raid with knights. That's, as you said, one of the key elements for a potential French victory over here. Your ability to just swoop in and kill some villagers to compensate for your opponent having those sacred sites or those relics. But with those walls coming up for MarineLorD, it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible, for Leenock to do such raids.
Yeah. I do like that Leenock has gone for all the aggressive techs instead of the defensive ones. This is the way I think you need to approach Delhi. Like, he could go for... So he's seen a lot of archers and spearmen and everything else coming out. Like, he could say, oh, I need more melee armor because I want to last longer. That's not the way you win a fight against the Delhi. Like, if you're focused on effective HP, you will lose because they always have better effective HP because they're medicaring their own asses all the time with these scholars. You can't match that. So what you need to do is get things like this. You need to get like the range damage increase so that you can easily reach a critical mass of archers to instantly kill the scholars. It's the only way you can win these early fights.
It looks like now we have a big mass of spearmen, horsemen grouping up out there, and now you see the scholars moving out. Interestingly, 2 scholars moving to that southernmost sacred sites. The other ones seem uncontested by MarineLorD. I would actually love to see the perspective of MarineLorD and how good his scouting is. I will think he knows about all 3 sacred sites, but to me it's a little surprising that he's concentrating both of his scholars to the south. Yeah, he's definitely aware of the other sacred sites. So, a little bit puzzling out there. Maybe he just wants a bit of a healing, or he's just afraid that he would lose one of those scholars and he needs the second one to cap.
It's the head pat logic. If one knight comes over here to kill you, they can just pat each other on the head and they can't die. It's actually really stupid. So it's what infuriates me about the scholars right now. Although if they run off like this, maybe you don't get some free heals. You can see the knights just can't engage those spears, keep them away. Horseman in the meantime is making mincemeat of Leenock's back line. He's going to lose all the archers at this rate. Like, there's too many horsemen here. And he's trying to trade out now, but the damage is already done. Sacred Site is going to be capped. Leenock is going to lose the army. He needs to fall back.
He doesn't have enough archer or knights rather over here because we didn't have a ton of spears. Yeah, like the archers, they were decent in numbers, but if you don't have enough knights, you don't have anything that deals with the horsemen. That's the thing, right? Like your only unit that's capable of dealing the horsemen is going to be the knights, and you have a limited production capacity on those. With the knights gone, there was just nothing that kills these horsemen away from the archers. You see they're slowly going down, but reinforcements are probably en route already to the battlefield for MarineLorD. Spearman making an appearance here for Leenock though, so he feels that sense of urgency for him to add a direct counter to those horsemen. But on the contrary, MarineLorD is already adding archers himself, so MarineLorD seems like he's one step ahead here, and he just forced the decisive engagement, which opens up the possibility for him to just send one random unguarded scholar to those other sacred sites.
Yeah, no need to fluff the pillow, no need to like not call a spade a spade. Like realistically what happened here with these knights is Leenock just got outplayed. He got completely outplayed on that sacred site. He got baited around, he done a loop-de-loop, the spearman pushed him back past, and it meant the knight spent the first half of the fight not even fighting. And that was the difference maker. Like, he only pulled 2 or 3 spearmen to achieve that. Still got the Sacred Site cap, and that's what allowed the snowball. After that, like, the amount of time, if you think about what's happening, cavalry each side, the horsemen are always attacking, and the knights are just, I don't know, playing kiss chase with each other. They're not really doing anything in these fights. And the other issue with that is, like, the cost association with each of these units. Like, you have to kill 2 horsemen for each knight going down. And those numbers just aren't being achieved. And the Archer Ball, the Death Ball, is starting to build up from MarineLorD. He's getting control of the map, and now you're in a situation where you're being pushed into your base. What this means is MarineLorD can now capture all 3 sacred sites, and it's going to be very hard for you to break out and decap them.
And in any civilization matchup, as the French, you never want to be the defender. You're a tempo-aggressive civilization. You never want to just sit inside your base and defend. But especially when it comes to playing against a Delhi, you don't want to just be confined into your base, because as you said, MarineLorD can capture all 3 sacred sites over here for himself, and he's already banking up resources for Castle Age, voling off those sacred sites, and that's where we're getting to the stage where the Delhi really becomes dangerous against any civilization. That timing push with the Tower of War Elephants and a castle drop, I wouldn't be surprised to see MarineLorD switching 10 villagers to stone in the next 1 minute. As a preparation to that, Leenock is in a really difficult spot over here because the most perfect timing window of the Delhi is approaching, and he's very much unprepared to deal with that.
So if I'm MarineLorD, I just wall this one up, and then I guard the 2 northern ones. Nice move by Leenock to get here quick enough. But once Spearman and Horseman, like, if he actually baits this right, and then he disengage after the lance attack comes out, you won't be able to decap. And yeah, he just backs away. So once this is walled up, all attention will be drawn north. And Leenock is behind now, militarily, so he can't afford to split up his forces. And, you can see, you know what MarineLorD was looking for there. He was looking to surround, because if he surrounds, they can't run away, and he might get it, he's gonna get it! Or, that knight should be stuck right now. That knight is stuck. So Leenock just lost 1 knight, the other one is heavily injured. Back away. But that's frustrating. That's a heavy investment, and you're getting no value. And remember what we said at the start of this game, Lidakor. The problem of dealing with Delhi is if you don't kill any of these units, they're going back to get their boo-boos kissed. They're going to get the bandages wrapped around them. They'll be fine because the skulls will heal them up to full.
And obviously you're losing a lot of time and you're losing a lot of resources when it comes to those knights getting killed. So with the French, it's imperative to keep those knights alive. This is something that's often said in tutorials by pro players. Like, for example, Beastie often says that killing 2 villagers and then losing your knight is not worth it, because that knight is so valuable. When it comes to the French, it's always about maintaining those numbers, and Leenock is simply unable to do that because MarineLorD is doing an exceptional job when it comes to picking off these knights. And you see, once again, he's going for the surround. But even if he doesn't get it, the horsemen are faster than the knight, so they can just outrun him, and if it's a heavily damaged knight, you can poke him down before he could get back to base and heal up.
And remember, even if you have chivalry, like, you're not going to heal up because this. Just little stabs, just keeps interrupting the cooldown period before the passive healing can even kick in. And tech up comes through. Like, this game is almost done. Like, Leenock needs to really come out with something heavy hitting in the next 2 minutes, or he's in trouble. And there it is, the patented relic pickup. Only 2 being returned right now, but that's because MarineLorD is playing against the French, and these knights could be prone in the midfield. But he's still got the ability to get all 5 relics before Leenock's going to be up in castle. Like, Leenock needs to get into MarineLorD's base. I don't think he can fall back to a tech up himself now.
Oh, he could get this.
Oh, he's going to be tight. That's going to be tight. Nope. Just shy.
There was no charge from the French knights, so if there was ever a chance to get it, then it was this one. But still, a little too long. Looks like 1 sacred site got decapped, but Leenock, you see, is banking up resources for Castle Age, but MarineLorD, just take a look at his position right now. He's ready to start adding those elephants, he's grabbing the Castle Age upgrades, he's grabbing the relics, and he's sitting on 500 stone. Keep in mind, he went up with the compound of the Defender, which means that a single keep only costs 600 stone, so he's almost ready to keep drop his opponent here.
Yeah, and this is the way I like to see this played. I actually think Compound Defender is the better way to play Delhi. The whole difference is like House of Lightning seems really good, but you're kicking the ball down the road, right? You're kicking the can, and I don't think that's the way you enable Delhi. Like, Delhi is all about finding every single element of gameplay that allows you to peek and castle. And Compound Defender does that remarkably. It allows you to eco boom with village fortresses, and it also allows you to just stake your claim on the midsection of the map. And right now, MarineLorD is continuing to stake his claim here. Arch is trading out. Should be a good fight initially for Leenock, but my concern is what's coming in afterwards. The Lancer push has begun, and you can see already MarineLorD has 5 Lancers out in the field. Leenock is only at 5 Royal Knights, and they're outmatched here.
Yeah, sustainability is an issue over here for Leenock because he can't really field more army. If he does that, he's going to delay his Castle Age, and once again, he's going to be behind in technology. And obviously, his French Knights are, you know, better than standard Feudal Age Knights of the Rus, for example, so they're Feudal Age Plus, essentially, but that still doesn't mean that he can sustain fighting very long battles while he's still in Feudal and the opponent is in Castle Age, especially once the Eco upgrades and the Blacksmith upgrades come in from MarineLorD from Castle Age. That's where it's gonna be really sketchy for the French. Leenock, he can't sustain full Feudal Age engagements. He knows that, he's going up to Castle. There is a glimpse of hope for him here. If MarineLorD is not playing aggressive enough, and you get the Royal Institute, and you can get Royal Bloodlines, there might be a chance. But he's going Guildhall. I just don't see it. I mean, Guildhall is the definition of you playing a long game, and that is not what you want against a Delhi over here.
I don't think I'm not even sure if he knows like what landmark his opponent went up with, because he can't get in the base because of the walls. And I'm wondering if that's kind of informing his choice. Maybe so here's the weird part about what MarineLorD has done here. When a Delhi player goes Lancers and you can't see his landmark, your assumption is House of Learning for Honeblades. And I think that's thrown him off. I think right now, Leenock believes that this game's going to be longer than it is because he went House of Learning. And he's about to learn. Surprise, mother ducker! Here come the villagers! And now, Leenock is like, wait, did I misread this? I think you both misread this. MarineLorD, where's your army?
Oh, he's actually very low on army. Look at that. 39 army for Leenock, 27 for MarineLorD. Hold on for a moment. We may have spoken too soon. And like, MarineLorD, he had a big resource bank. He's going to drop the first keep very much on the front. Dropping a mosque right next to it. He wants boiling oil or he wants village fortresses here really fast. Looks like this might not be a short game after all, because MarineLorD won't be able to keep drop Leenock over here directly. And the archer mass is pretty big for Leenock. That could allow him to snap down the tower elephant. Honestly, especially with those spearmen wiping out the knights of MarineLorD, this is looking better and better for Leenock.
Well, MarineLorD is optimizing the choke point now. He's going to buy enough time to keep it go up, and that's when Leenock has to back away. Maybe he gets 1 or 2 villages, but it's inevitable that this is going up. There it is. He'll back out. Probably will lose the rest of his knights to do so. And it's still an uncomfortable phase for Leenock, because although MarineLorD made a very big whoopsie-daisy, something to keep in mind is that MarineLorD has padded his eco off the sacred sites, but now also off the relics. And on top of that, although Leenock has reached up into castle, he's still missing like that big boost up. He didn't go for the Royal Institute, so he doesn't even have the option of making his knights these godly leviathans in the battlefield via Royal Bloodlines.
And this is the duality of that Delhi gameplay that MarineLorD does so often, and this is something that you pointed out before the game, that it's not just about you having that timing push, it's not just about you capturing sacred sites, it's also you using that Feudal Age advantage to set yourself up with 4 or 5 relics for late game. And you know, Delhi late game is just a debated topic right now with how long it takes to research technologies, but obviously when you are sitting on 5 relics, no matter the civilization, your late game is gonna be solid. And you see, MarineLorD is going for village fortresses right away. By the way, as a side note, this is something that doesn't get talked about very often. The mosques that the Delhi have, they do have Wi-Fi, so you don't have to have your mosque over here on the front line connected to your starting TC, like let's say, you know, the Abbasids have to connect their buildings to the House of Wisdom. So by having that mosque right next to it, you get your research boost that you get back at home on this landmark as well, allowing you to get village fortresses and boiling oil much sooner.
Yeah, that's a really fair point. I think that is actually a very easy detail to overlook. Like, I've seen a lot of comments before, like, why is he not Well, he's not banking scholars in. As you just pointed out, you don't need to. So, folks, like, that means village fortresses will be coming in probably the next 3 minutes max. And as MarineLorD starts to stack up these keeps, he also is going to stack his eco, and he'll move ahead of Leenock, because one issue I'm taking on Leenock is, like, I think on the road to recovery, you need to find a way to get into a TC. But the way you dove and lost additional troops going under that keep and couldn't block it means now he's kind of hard stuck. He feels like he needs to reinvest. On top of that, there's already a heavy eco demand in getting his upgrades, but that's something MarineLorD's now going to exploit. Next keep going up, and this is now where Leenock is kind of stuck in a perpetual state of reactions, right? Like, we saw the reactions like clumping up to punish the castle up. We then saw the reaction of now he's trying to pivot to deal with the elephants, and now he's going to have to pivot again to deal with the keeps. And each time you make these pivots, you're not necessarily getting one up. It's very difficult against a player like MarineLorD to find that additional detail of, like, if I build siege, I also gain this. If you build siege right now against what MarineLorD's doing, you're building siege just to get rid of the keeps. And you could argue that will shrink the eco count or the eco scalability for MarineLorD. But the issue I take is when you're forced to go trebuchets from behind like this, trebuchets are a slow build-up. They will not kill keeps straight away like a bombard would.
It looks like Leenock is moving in here. Spearman alone won't crack it, but when you have archer support, it could be decent. No boiling oil on those keeps. The keep is gonna get denied, and, like, given the circumstances, like, let's be honest, MarineLorD, he's got a pretty good position over here, but given the circumstances, this is as good as it gets here for Leenock. But is it sufficient? That's the question. He's losing too much value over here. Hasn't killed a single unit, and he lost all the spearmen. I think he traded like 20 spearmen to 1 scholar. That's not gonna crack it, even after denying that keep.
It's like, yeah, I'll teach you to learn. You have to learn how to find a way out of this coffin that's being built around you, because that's what this keep line is going to turn into. And the crazy part is if MarineLorD sneaks back in here, he can then afford another 2 keeps because of that stone outcropping that is sitting right next to your base. That stone outcropping that you never touched because you didn't think about going keep yourself, you didn't go multi-TC, and now on top of that, because you placed your landmark in a very questionable location, actually. Like, we didn't even get a chance to talk about what the plan was with this. Like, he built it at the foot of his base. And I'm wondering what the thought process really was. Maybe it was just efficient because he had woodworkers nearby, but it means you're losing the landmark that's meant to be like your winter fund, right? When times are hard and you need something to get you through, the guild hall isn't going to be there to sustain your eco anymore. That's gone.
Yeah, that's exactly it, right? Like, we talk about the fact that Leenock is playing on 1000ers, so sure, I think he's got a bit of an eco lead thanks to faster producing villagers, but that's not much. We're talking about 10 villagers to compensate for 5 relics and 2 sacred sites. So you really needed that guild hall to work out for you, and it's no longer accessible.
And now this as well. He tries to block the siege workshop going up. It's almost complete. Enough villagers here to finish off. That's going to be a big deal. I said the trebuchets are slow, but the difference is, like, Leenock needs a quick breakout. MarineLorD doesn't. Because right now, Leenock is the one at risk of breaking here. His base is being assaulted. The elephants are diving through. They're looking for clues everywhere. And now, while they dive deeper, behind this, trebuchets are going to be taking out the landmarks and giving MarineLorD his clear win condition.
He doesn't even need trebuchets to take down those landmarks, but he could just use the elephants. But as you pointed out, he wants to distract his opponent. He uses the trebuchets to destroy the landmark while also pushing the eco with the elephants. And yeah, it's a pick your poison scenario. You kill the elephants or you kill the trebs, and you can't do both.
Well, the crazy part is, like, there's a unit that could kill both, and it would be the horseman. But I see so many players do this with the spears instead. Like, yeah, that they cost less, but also they're less effective in fights like this, because usually when you're dealing with elephants, the thing you're looking to do is trap them. Spears move too slow to trap, so you can't get on top of them. Trapping, by the way, is when you surround a unit and it can't move away. Horsemen can do this, spears cannot, and Leenock realizes this is just too many elephants. It's unassailable. MarineLorD is going to take the series 2-0 and head through quickly the finals.
Indeed, very decisive win over here, finishing the game under 25 minutes with the Delhi. Notably, this is the timing window where Delhi has the highest win rate against the French in high-level games, that 20 to 25 minutes window, and you see why. It is that Castle Age power spike with the keep drops, which essentially turned out to be the Delhi meta in the recent couple of weeks, and MarineLorD is playing this to perfection, as you pointed out, starting out with a small lead, which actually turned out to be a pretty big lead in this game, actually. He took a decisive engagement in Feudal Age, and then using that, he had 2-3 sacred sites for a long time, picked up 5 relics, and then from that point on, it was just a snowball. Especially if you consider the fact that tower elephants are mostly a gold-heavy unit. They cost a lot of food as well, but they're mostly, like, I think 66% of their resource cost is in gold. And you're just swimming in gold with the Delhi. Look at that, 13,000 gold for MarineLorD. You can turn that into a lot of elephants, and as you pointed out, that's just difficult to deal with, especially when you don't have like a high upside trap-like unit, like for example the horseman.
I really think that the counter to Delhi right now, that the clear counter without getting into Civ specifics, like game style approach, is you actually have to go for like an outpost rush type play.